Teacher Prix, why do I freeze when it's time to speak English? And more importantly, what do I need to do to change that so that I can feel more confident speaking in English to anyone, anywhere, anytime? Well, watch this video and find out. Hey student, I am Teacher Prix and I'm going to help you talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime in English. Make sure to subscribe to my channel because every week, I post different kinds of English lessons, vocabulary, pronunciation, reading, listening, speaking tips, study strategies, because I want to make you become a better and more confident English speaker. If you have already subscribed, I appreciate it. Hit the like button, but other than that, let's get to work. Why do I freeze when it's time to speak? Guys, here on my channel, I focus on specific kinds of students, pre-intermediate and intermediate students. That's why I speak 100% in English, all right? Now, this is a transition level, and I imagine that now you want to speak more. Use the lessons you study. So guys, at this moment, you should be learning lessons to connect with English speaking. So you should be doing that. At this moment, at a pre-intermediate and intermediate level, you should be connecting all your English lessons with speaking. And another important thing, the way you studied when you started, your habits, the things you did when you began your English journey, may impact your ability to communicate at higher levels. So depending on how you started, you could be in a bit of trouble, you could be in trouble if you didn't follow good study strategies when you started the journey. The problem is that only when students finish their basic practice that they start worrying about, oh, did I do the right thing? I'm stuck. I can't speak, but I studied for a year, for two. Oh, something is wrong. Only at this level, they start to feel like, I did something wrong. And this will impact your speaking. So if you want to go from stuck to speaking, if you want to stop freezing, well, let's check out the reasons, okay? Reason number one. Well, before I mention that, one thing that I love doing with my BSA, and it's something that I'm going to recommend here, is speaking needs to be part of your study routine. Yesterday I was on my Instagram, and I posted a story telling my followers that I had studied English, I studied modal verbs, and I had a 5-minute speaking practice using modal verbs, using the lesson I was studying. It was grammar. So this is something that I show my babies too in my online program, the Academy, where I make my students to go from stuck to speaking in 6 months. Inside my academy, in every module, I show my students the importance of establishing a solo speaking practice. So to build up the confidence to speak, you need to practice. So yesterday, I was here recording myself, using modal verbs, studying grammar, and creating things to talk about using the grammar I was studying. This is something you should do. But let's get to work. Reason number one. Your reaction time is slow, and this could happen to a series of reasons. What is reaction time? It's something that I like to test with my students. I ask you a question, and you freeze, and you continue. You need more time. So how slow and how fast is your reaction time? So this could be a sign that you are beginning to freeze in conversations. And the more that happens to you, and your reaction time could be that way for you for a series of reasons. There are many reasons. I will focus on 4 reasons that I thought of as I was preparing this lesson. 1, the question was too difficult. It was a complicated question, so you froze. Complicated question. And I will give you recommendations. Stay with me until the end to work on this. Poor grammar. And here I could even make a combo of the first one and the second. It's a complicated question and you have poor grammar. Grammar is always going to be on your journey. I have tremendous respect for all English teachers, and this is one thing that I will always highlight to my followers. You need to study grammar. If you have poor grammar, you will not be able to communicate, you will freeze. Vocabulary, your vocabulary is poor. So now at this level, the conversations will get more complicated. The conversations will expand. If you want to keep going and go from stuck to speaking, you gotta have a better vocabulary practice. And I will also give you some ideas of that, of how you can change that. And you think too much in your language. This is another symptom of the way you started your journey. If when you started, you used way too much translation, you focused too much on using your language to study English, every time you have an opportunity to speak, you may freeze. Your reaction time will be way too slow because you will be building all the sentences in your head in your language. And when that doesn't work, because at a pre-intermediate level, you learn more complicated structures, longer sentences, it doesn't work the same way in your language and in English, you may freeze. So watch out for that. This is reason number one. It's a combination of explanations to show you what reaction time is. You go slowly because it's a complicated question. You have poor grammar, poor vocabulary, and you think too much in your language. Watch out for these bad guys, okay? Second reason, you may have good speaking skills. And I believe you, maybe you have good speaking skills. It's not perfect. Not talking about perfection here. But you let your emotions take over. This is bad. If you don't have good emotions management, if you can't manage your emotions well, you will freeze, my friend. You will freeze. You could go to Harvard like I did. I went to Harvard. I studied business communication and professional communication in English. You could go to Canada. You could go to England and study with the very best professionals to help you unlock your speaking. But if you don't work on your emotions, you will always freeze. There's a job interview. You won't do it. You will freeze. There's a meeting, you will freeze, and your reaction time will be slow, because you're not working on emotions. And what is that? What is happening more specifically? The first thing I needed to monitor is your internal dialogue. What is this? At a moment of a conversation, maybe with your boss, maybe at work, maybe at an interview, maybe with a stranger on the street when you're traveling abroad, your internal dialogue gets very loud. Loud, okay? In your head. Internal dialogue is a conversation that we have with ourselves in our head. So let's say I'm here. I'm talking to myself in my head. That's internal dialogue. Now, this internal dialogue is natural. Everybody does it. If you don't, well, maybe you don't pay attention. But we always have an internal conversation with ourselves. Maybe we're thinking of our day. Did I do the dishes? Did I lock the door? That's internal dialogue, okay? Nice to meet you. And this internal dialogue can get very loud when it's time to speak. So you need to become more aware of those moments and focus on the person in front of you. Ignore the thoughts, the ideas. Don't give them attention. The more attention you give to the crazy internal conversation you have in your mind, the more difficult it'll be to manage your emotions, especially during a situation of stress or pressure, all right? The second thing, you feel afraid of being rejected. So the emotions, I'm talking about the emotions that control you. You were so afraid of being rejected because of your English. Oh, my boss will not like me. My boss will think I'm stupid, will think I'm dumb. My colleagues will laugh at me. I will not belong to the group. So that's fear of rejection, but more specifically because of your English. So watch out. You need to understand that fluency is communication. When I come here on my channel and I say, fluency, I will help you go from stuck to speaking in 6 months. When I tell my students in my academy that I help them do that, I'm not talking about perfection. That doesn't exist. I'm not saying you will stop making mistakes. That doesn't exist. I am saying that you will become clear. People will ask you questions and you will answer. You will answer them. You will remember the words, and if you don't know a word, you will know how to explain yourself as fluent people do. That's what fluency is. Fluency is communication, not perfection. Remember that. And another common fear, you will feel afraid of not being good enough. This is a common problem of people who can speak English. They speak English, they have good speaking skills, but it's never enough. Never enough. Be careful, because you will begin to freeze. If you start with this mentality, you go to a meeting, you do it. People are happy. They understood. You got the deal. You got the job. But you feel miserable. Not good enough. I didn't get a good job. I need to study more. I need to do more lessons. This is not enough for me. My English is still horrible. If you keep thinking that way, your English you will begin to freeze in situations of stress or very important moments for you. So watch out, okay? Now, that being said, make sure to support the channel by hitting the like button. Share. When you share, you really help this channel grow. And not just my channel, you're helping other students who need to see these lessons so that they can improve their English and stop getting frozen and stuck when it's time to speak. And in case you're interested, I have an excellent study plan. I call this the 21-day study plan cycle because I teach you how to organize your study plan and keep repeating this study cycle. Keep using this cycle as a way to guide your practice so you know how to organize your study routine. It is a very efficient study plan, especially if you study alone and you don't have someone like me or my online program to guide you. Excellent study plan. And if you need to better understand native speakers, I recommend my listening mastery workshop because it'll show you the 5 best practices that will help you understand native speakers. But now, reason number 3, there's more reason. There are more reasons. One more. Third reason, inappropriate preparation for everyday conversations and meaningful discussions. Now, guys, this is a little similar to number 1 because in number 1, I talk about reaction time and then I mention poor vocabulary, poor grammar. But I believe when you say you study vocabulary, I believe in you. I believe when you say you listen, I believe in you. But here, what I'm talking about is inappropriate preparation for everyday conversations and meaningful discussions. What is meaningful? There's meaning. It's important. It's different. Not always serious. Not talk, no, let's talk about the global warming. No, but maybe something special, something nice, something fun, something casual. Meaningful discussions. And these guys, you don't write enough to help you better understand. You don't write enough. We live in a generation where people don't write, they type. And this is terrible for your memory. You are putting the responsibility of memorization to your phone, not to your brain. I'm reading a book right now where a doctor that studies the brain and memory talks about this again and again and again. We are transferring responsibility. We are not using our muscle, our memory muscle. Everything is here nowadays. How many passwords do you know? How many phone numbers do you know? How many emails do you know? Ask yourself those questions, okay? You listen, but you listen more than other skills. You listen more than do other skills. That's what I was trying to say. your practice. You don't have a good study plan. You focus way too much of your time listening. Not gonna work, all right? You focus more on vocabulary than any other skills. Another problem. Maybe that's why your vocabulary is poor. You focus too much on vocabulary and you don't complement vocabulary with a speaking practice, or vocabulary with a good listening practice, or vocabulary and grammar. So you focus too much on vocabulary and you have a lot of those apps to keep making you save flashcards, and that's not very healthy. You don't review lessons. You don't include speaking practices in your study routine. You don't follow a good study plan. So that sums up inappropriate preparation. But that being said, what do we do? What do you do now, teacher? I have these problems. So what am I going to do? Honestly, teacher, help me out. I'll help you out. I'll give you ideas. But the first thing I need you to understand is, don't think of finding a short-term solution. I'm not going to give you a recommendation that is going to solve your problem today or next week or in 10 days. No, I am talking about the long run. I'm talking about the long term. I'm talking about the journey of your life. That's what I do here. That's what I do for myself. I keep studying. Anywhere, anytime, I want to talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime, I got to do the work. My recommendations need to be implemented consistently long term. The first one is more abstract. I want you to start paying attention to your internal dialogue. At the time of a possible conversation in English, what do you say to yourself that makes you nervous? Oh my God, I don't know how to say this word. What am I going to do? Oh no, I'm so stupid. It's my boss. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing. What is the conversation you have in your head when a conversation gets a little difficult? I want you to monitor that moment. And guys, maybe you don't know me so well, but I'm a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. I study a lot of how the brain works in neuroscience. And a lot of the things we say to ourselves in a situation of stress have the power to block us or have the power to make us powerful. So the more bad talk you have in your mind at a conversation, the more stuck you're going to get and the more you're going to freeze. So monitor that and change that conversation dialogue. Number 2, everything is feedback. The next time a conversation is too difficult for you, and this will happen, there will be conversations which will be difficult. Natural, that's normal. I want you to pay attention to that conversation that was hard for you. And when you get home and you study, the next time you sit down to study, that is going to be your priority. I'm going to work hard and prepare myself to have that conversation in English. That should be your goal. Everything is feedback. What do I mean by that? Every bad moment in our lives is showing us something important, is giving us some kind of lesson, is giving us some kind of feedback. Take advantage of that moment and work on yourself. And finally, improve your reaction time. And this is connected with the things you do. But more specifically, I want you to include in your practice answering different kinds of English questions. And while you answer different kinds, okay? I want you to time yourself. You ask the question, you start the timer. Then let's think of how much time you need to start answering and record yourself, of course, and see how bad, how so your answer is. Analyze your ability to answer questions. This is the best speaking practice that you can possibly do if you are completely alone, that will help you use what you study and improve your reaction time. Ask yourself difficult questions. Don't stick to what did you do yesterday? What did you eat for lunch? What do you like to do in your free time? No, ask more meaningful questions. Otherwise, you're always going to be stuck because the more you go on your journey, the more advanced conversations you should have. That's how you improve. Now, guys, that is all for today. Thank you very much for staying with me. Make sure to hit the like button and share this video with someone special. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.